Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. A packed Supreme Court today as President Trump attends oral arguments on birthright citizenship at the Supreme Court hearing. Arlene Richards was there and with the latest. President Trump says Iran is now asking for a ceasefire. What the White House says about NTD and what they told about the president's major speech tonight, and how the Pentagon is providing the commander-in-chief with military options. President Trump says Iran's new leader is seeking a ceasefire, but he says first the Strait of Hormuz needs to be reopened. The Pentagon will triple production of radars for an anti-missile defense system. What the system does and how this fits into the Pentagon's broader strategy. The FBI arrests a sex offender accused of illegally voting. The Bureau says the individual voted in 2 different elections. Moms for America hosting a special tea and luncheon in Georgetown, kicking off America's 250th birthday by placing mothers past and present at the center of America's history.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. Our first story, President Trump says he's received a ceasefire offer from Iran's new regime. He's set to address the nation at 9 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent, Iris Tao. Iris, good afternoon. What do we know so far about his speech tonight?
Good afternoon to you as well, John. So as the president is set to address the nation and make what the White House calls an important speech on Iran tonight at 9 p.m., the White House tells NTD that the president is expected to reiterate his 2 to 3 week timetable for wrapping up the operation and also give an operation update. And it comes as the White House also tells us that the president will highlight the U.S. military's success in completing all of its stated military objectives, including one, taking out its Navy, destroying Iran's ballistic missiles and production facilities, also taking out its proxies in the region, making sure they can no longer destabilize the region, as well as making sure that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. And all this comes as the president this morning announcing that Iran's new leader has reached out to the U.S. asking for a ceasefire. He says that the U.S. will consider, quote, when Hormuz Strait is open, free, and clear, adding that until then, the U.S. will continue striking Iran. And here's the president speaking at the White House yesterday, again laying out that 2 to 3 week timeline, while saying that Iran doesn't have to make a deal with the U.S. for the U.S. to call this operation a success and finish it. Watch.
We have had regime change. Now, regime change was not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons. But we're finishing the job. And I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing there.
And the Pentagon is certainly giving the president more military options while negotiations are continuing. The Central Command this morning releasing new footage, they say, showing USS Tripoli, an amphibious assault ship deployed to the Middle East region. And they say that the 3,500 sailors and Marines on that ship are right now maintaining peak warfighting capabilities and readiness. Back to you.
So, Iris, pivoting here to domestic policies, the president also just issuing a new demand for Republicans in Congress. Tell us more about that.
Sure. So on Truth Social, the president just now demanding that House and Senate Republicans come together to pass a full ICE and Border Patrol funding bill by June 1st. And that will be going around the 60-vote filibuster process. And instead, it means going through the party line process of budget reconciliation. In the meantime, he says the big, beautiful bill will fund ICE and Border Patrol. And here's the president over the weekend talking about the importance of funding them. Watch.
I think the Senate is playing it too soft. The Republicans are wonderful people, but we're dealing with very sick individuals. We have to protect our country. We have to protect our border.
And on another domestic topic here, the president this morning traveling from the White House to the Supreme Court to listen to the oral arguments in the case surrounding his executive order about birthright citizenship. And that marks the first time the U.S. sitting president attends the Supreme Court hearing, and the White House releasing new photos showing the president walking inside the Supreme Court as well as walking alongside Attorney General Pam Bondi. So more news to look for on that front as well, as we are waiting for the president to speak tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Back to you.
All right, Iris, thank you. The Pentagon is planning to triple production of radars for the Patriot Advanced Capacity 3 anti-missile defense system. The Defense Department, or the Department of War, saying this is part of the broader effort to be on a wartime footing. The department announcing a landmark framework agreement in partnership with Boeing and Lockheed Martin. The Patriot Advanced Capability 3 is a missile system that intercepts enemy ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and aircraft. The radars will provide active measures and data to ensure precision. The Pentagon is calling the agreement a pivotal step in executing President Trump's vision to build the arsenal of freedom. They add the agreement shows that a resilient supply chain is paramount and the entire defense industrial base is postured to expand production. And President Trump signaling a possible major shift in U.S. foreign policy, saying he is strongly considering pulling out of NATO. The president called the alliance a paper tiger in an interview with the Telegraph newspaper, arguing it failed to support the U.S. during the war with Iran. Here's more.
Trump pointing to NATO allies' reluctance to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz is a breaking point. He says the U.S. has consistently stood by its partners, but says that support has not been returned. The president also criticizing the United Kingdom's military readiness and leadership priorities. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer was asked about President Trump's comments. He said he would act in his country's interest, whatever the noise. Starmer said it's in the UK's interest to have a strong relationship with the US and with Europe. On defense and security, Starmer says the UK especially needs a stronger relationship with Europe. The UK leader saying that in turn will help strengthen Britain's relationship with the US. Starmer says he has long argued that Europe should be doing more in that field.
Surveillance footage obtained by the Associated Press appears to show the moment an American journalist was kidnapped in Baghdad. Shelley Kittleson remains missing after her abduction yesterday. She is a freelance journalist who has worked for years in Iraq and Syria. The video shows two men approaching a person standing on a street corner and ushering the person into the back of a car. There appears to be a brief struggle to shut the car door before the men get into the vehicle and drives it away. U.S. and Iraqi officials said Kittleson had been warned of threats against her. One Iraqi official said she tried to enter the country from Syria on March 9th, but was turned back because she did not have a press work permit. She later entered the country after obtaining a single-entry visa to Iraq valid for 60 days. She was staying in a hotel in Baghdad. One suspect in the kidnapping plot has been arrested and is being interrogated. The Supreme Court hearing arguments in President Trump's bid to limit birthright citizenship. Joining us now is Colley Stimeson, Senior Legal Fellow and Senior Advisor to the President at the Heritage Foundation. Good afternoon, Colley. So the President attending the oral arguments today, appearance is historic, his appearance. Anything to be said about his presence in your view?
Well, it's unique. It's very Trumpian. Presidents in the past haven't done so, I think, out of due respect to a co-equal branch of the government. But I don't think that'll have any impact on how the justices are going to rule ultimately in June.
Right. Okay. And the hearing was around 90 minutes. I think you were tuning into it. Can you just give us what stood out during this oral argument?
So the oral arguments were presented by the Solicitor General of the United States and the head of the ACLU. They both did an outstanding job representing their respective arguments that they'd put in writing, of course, before the hearing. The first thing that jumped out to me is that John Sauer, the Solicitor General, mentioned in answering a question that if the court were to rule for the government, in other words, uphold the executive order banning birthright citizenship under the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, that it would only be applied prospectively, not retroactively. So that was sort of a news item. The rest of the argument was really what I expected to hear based on the written briefings. And they focused on what subject to the jurisdiction thereof means. and their interpretation of this case called Wong Kim Ark, whether that decision stood for birthright citizenship or actually supported the government's position that it did not stand for birthright citizenship.
Okay, so on the phrase "subject to the jurisdiction thereof," can we get your comments on that? In terms of what does it mean, the jurisdiction of the United States?
Right. So that was what a lot of the argument centered around. So the president and those on his side say that the original public meaning of that phrase means political allegiance to the United States. So it would exclude children born to illegal aliens. It obviously excludes children born to foreign diplomats or an invading force. The ACLU's argument and the certified class of people who were born to parents illegally here in the United States say, no. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof means subject to the civil and criminal laws of the United States. That if you're an illegal alien and you're in this country and you commit a crime, you can be prosecuted. So you are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and birthright citizenship has been the norm for a long time. So don't disrupt the norm.
Okay, what is your view? What is your position on the consequences or the impacts of automatic birthright citizenship so far on the United States?
Well, I think it goes beyond any question that we're an outlier country. No country in Europe allows for birthright citizenship. But as a policy matter and as a legal matter, we have interpreted the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment to allow for birthright citizenship. And so the reason that other countries don't do it and we do it is in the case of the United States, it acts as a magnet for people to come here illegally, have a child here in the country, and then that child sponsors the parents, and then we have this chain migration or birth tourism, which we have in the United States. And so if the court were to side with the president and applied this constitutional interpretation prospectively, it would turn off that incentive. It would be seen as a shot heard around the world to some folks who want birthright citizenship, but I think it would be just implemented like any other Supreme Court rule. And it doesn't mean illegal immigration will stop. It just means that an illegal who has a baby in this country wouldn't have the privilege of citizenship for their child and then themselves and their extended family members.
Okay, I'm wondering as well if you could explain, is there a national security aspect to this as well? Is there an argument that allowing foreigners from adversarial countries, for example, like China, to come to the U.S. and give birth to U.S. citizens, and those citizens whose allegiance may not be the United States, is there an argument for that?
Obviously, and you made it. And actually, it was brought up during the argument in the court. Chief Justice John Roberts asked, he said, even though we don't focus on policy, what is the estimate of how many children who are born who are from illegal aliens are born in the United States? And John Sauer, the Solicitor General, said, well, by some estimates, there's already been 1.5 million Chinese babies born to illegal aliens here in the United States. And he also pointed out that according to another organization, there are 500 companies in China that focus on getting Chinese people into the United States or into the territories for the purpose of establishing birthright citizenship. Now, the court will not rule on the policies and the policy implications of their rulings should not be part of any proper constitutionalist ruling, but that is sort of floating around the sidelines of this case.
So another topic during today's hearing was implementation, and you mentioned that briefly in an earlier comment. Where do you stand? What is your position of implementation of no automatic birthright citizenship? I mean, would every hospital then have to check patients or parents' immigration status?
So Justice Amy Coney Barrett, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, others asked exactly that. How would this practicably be implemented? I mean, And the Solicitor General said, well, by the way, when a child is born in the United States today, they are given citizenship immediately, no matter who they are. But he didn't have a fleshed out answer for how it would be implemented. And I don't think anyone really knows exactly how it would be implemented. Somehow, the only thing he did say is that that family who would be denied citizenship for their child who was born would affirmatively have to petition the government for citizenship to say, no, actually we are citizens, and the burden would be on them to prove that they are a citizen, thus allowing their child to get citizenship. But I don't think anyone really has an answer to that question.
All right, let me just ask you one last question here. It's been a great discussion, but what would you think would be the impacts, if the Supreme Court upholds birthright citizenship, that anyone born in the U.S. is automatically a citizen?
No one would feel any different than they feel right now. That's the state of the law in the land. If the court sides with the ACLU and against the Trump's executive order, it'll be just like we felt this morning and yesterday and 10 months ago and 10 years ago. Birthright citizenship has been the norm in this country. So if the court sides with the ACLU, nothing changes. It just depends on how they write the decision and whether they rule on the constitutional side of it or whether they rely on a statute. When asked which she would prefer, the ACLU lawyer says, well, we'd like to win either way, but we would prefer the constitutional route because that will cement things for the future.
Well, all right, colleague, good to speak with you today. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
The FBI arrests a sex offender accused of illegally voting. The Bureau says the individual voted in 2 different elections. More news after this break. Don't go away.
Have you heard what's happening at Mathis Home? Our spring style event is going on now with hundreds of options for your new dining room. This 52-inch table is a great deal. It's just $4.99 in your choice of finishes. Mix and match chairs to complete the look that's just right for you. You can also get it with a marble top or in a larger size for extra seating. We have your style in stock now with fast, free delivery. Get your new dining room and save at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Getting prescription glasses from Select Specs is easier than you might think. Select your frames from our £6 range in-house brands or our extensive designer collections. Then enter, upload or email your latest prescription and our website will analyse it and help you select the best lenses and options to suit you. Click to place the order and your new Select Specs glasses are delivered right to your door. Ordering your prescription glasses is as easy as 1, 2, C with Select Specs and selectspecs.com.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Abused youth often feel safer on the street. Now, more than ever, that's the most dangerous place of all. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming, and no young person is ever turned away. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month to help a young person. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Your gift will show them they're loved. Homeless young people are afraid and alone with nowhere else to turn.
You want to know that there's somewhere you can go that's safe. So the Covenant House did that for us.
Please call now with your gift of $19 a month. We'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. Please don't wait. Your gift is the lifeline a young person needs now. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org. Thank you for saving precious lives.
Vice President J.D. Vance swearing in Colin McDonald today. He is now the Assistant Attorney General overseeing the Justice Department's National Fraud Enforcement Division.
When you have fraud being committed in this country, the Department of Justice has largely turned a blind eye towards it if it's under a certain dollar amount. One of the things Colin is going to do is make sure that no fraud, no matter how big or how small it is, no fraud is small enough or big enough to look away from. And I think that's going to reimpose deterrence. It's going to make fraudsters know that they're going to suffer some consequences, and it's going to make the American people know that these programs are being protected for the people who need them, because there are a lot of them out there. We want to help them, but we've got to get rid of the fraud in order to do it.
To the American people, my promise to you is this, that I will work tirelessly day after day to ensure that if someone out there dares to steal your taxpayer dollars, that there might just be a federal prosecutor on the end of that bad decision, that no longer will we be uninterested in low levels of fraud. We will be interested in all of it. And if someone out there right now is deciding and determining whether they will file a false application to try to steal your taxpayer dollars, we're going to care about it, and we're going to find it, and we are going to prosecute you as hard as we can.
President Trump announced the creation of the DOJ's new division in January. It aims to centralize enforcement efforts and expand the DOJ's ability to investigate complex fraud schemes. Its mission includes targeting fraud involving federal government programs, federally funded benefits, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and private citizens nationwide. The issue has gained attention following alleged large-scale fraud schemes in several states, including Minnesota. McDonald has been working as an Associate Deputy Attorney General since 2025. It was confirmed by the Senate last week. And the FBI has arrested a convicted sex offender accused of illegally voting in 2 different elections. The Bureau says in one instance, the individual cast a ballot at a polling site inside an elementary school. James Osborne is accused of making false statements to register to vote and cast a ballot. The Justice Department says he voted in person inside a school in North Carolina during the last presidential election in 2024. The DOJ also accuses Osborne of voting inside a public library during a primary election this past February. The 36-year-old is currently on supervised release for possession of child pornography. On each occasion, Osborne allegedly indicated to voting officials that he was not serving a felony sentence. He faces a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison for each count. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is signing the Sunshine State's version of the Save America Act. It aims to further bolster election integrity.
This bill protects and expands integrity in our voter registration process by requiring the verification of U.S. citizenship when you're doing your voter registration. Our Constitution in the state of Florida says only American citizens are allowed to vote in our elections. And so we need to make sure that that is the law.
The new law restricts the kinds of ID accepted at voting booths. For example, student IDs will no longer be accepted. The Florida SAVE Act will also mandate paper ballots in all elections. The governor says paper ballots are more secure and easier to verify in the case of a recount. The new law will not take effect until next year. Proponents say it will further prevent election fraud. Opponents argue that the law could negatively affect eligible voters who may not have citizenship documents readily available. The League of Women Voters of Florida and a coalition of advocacy groups are suing to block the law. Luigi Mangione is expected back in a Manhattan federal courtroom today as his attorneys push to delay his upcoming trial. The defense is asking a judge to postpone proceedings on federal interstate stalking charges, citing the challenge of handling multiple cases at once. Mangione is facing both federal and state charges in connection with the December 2024 killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. He pleaded not guilty in both cases. A federal judge has set a September 8th trial date, with opening statements scheduled for October 13th. Meanwhile, the state trial is set to begin on June 8th. Earlier this year, the judge dismissed a federal murder charge and a gun charge, but the judge allowed stalking charges to move forward. Those carry charges of possibly life sentence. State charges also carry the possibility of life in prison. Payroll company ADP estimates the private sector added 62,000 jobs last month. The biggest bump was in healthcare and education, which added 58,000 jobs. That gain was negated by a loss of just as many paychecks in trade, transportation, and utilities. Good weather and data center builds helped add 30,000 jobs in the construction sector. Average raises came in at 4.5%, and people who got new jobs saw a 6.6% boost to their pay. Nike is warning of a tougher road ahead, sending its stock sharply lower after hours. The world's largest sportswear company says sales are expected to fall this quarter as it struggles with weak demand in China and a lingering glut of unsold inventory. The disappointing outlook is raising fresh concerns about the pace of Nike's turnaround and whether global economic pressures could further slow its recovery. Here's more.
Nike shares tumbled in extended trade Tuesday after it forecast a surprise drop in fourth quarter sales. The sportswear giant blamed weakness in China and slow progress in clearing older inventory. That outlook sent its stock down more than 9%. Nike's revenue was flat at just under $11.3 billion in the third quarter, but just above analyst estimates. However, CFO Matt Friend projected a drop of up to 4% in current quarter sales. Sales in China fell 10%, and Friend says they are expected to fall 20% in the fourth quarter. He cited volatility from rising oil prices and ongoing fighting in the Middle East as factors. The company has struggled in its second largest market, which accounts for 15% of annual sales. It has faced market share losses versus local competitors Anta and Li-Ning. Nike is also expecting to end the fourth quarter with excess inventory. Under CEO Elliott Hill, it has pulled back promotions, stepped up innovation, and refocused on core franchises like running. The move comes as the company works to reset the business after years of excess inventory and uneven demand across North America and China.
Americans opened their wallets at U.S. retailers in February. After 3 consecutive months of declines, the Commerce Department said retail sales rose 0.6% in February. That's higher than the 0.4% increase economists had projected. Retail sales climbed across nearly every category in February, increasing the most at department stores, personal care shops, and clothing retailers. Spending declined only at grocery stores and furniture retailers. Economists watch spending data closely because Americans' purchases make up about 2/3 of the U.S. economy. States that decline to opt in to the Education Freedom Tax Credit could be giving up billions in education funding, according to the America First Policy Institute. We talked to an expert from the institute after this break. Stay with us.
This land, our America, built on hard work, determination, and grit. Sometimes the days run long, but hope, it never runs out, even when the food does, for America's veterans, working parents, even kids. Because in every corner of every town, even yours, millions of hardworking neighbors are facing a hunger crisis, many for the very first time. In this land of plenty, affording food shouldn't require second jobs and third shifts or choosing between your groceries and bills. Today, you can help change that. Call or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, less than 63 cents a day, to help every neighbor get the food they urgently need. Because taking care of each other is what makes America strong. We're Feeding America, not just a name, but an action. Working with over 200 local food banks like the ones in your community, and demand is soaring.
You go to the grocery store, you spend $100, and $100 is a new $20 bill.
Even with 2 full-time jobs, it's hard to make ends meet.
These are tough times, but when we stand together, we become the very best of a strong America. Please call or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org. Just $19 a month can feed a family today. And your first gift can double an impact. Plus, we'll send you this free canvas bag as a reminder of the hope you're delivering.
When it comes down to it, it's about taking care of your family first and the loved ones that you need to provide for.
Because you're not just giving food, you're fueling resilience for people across the nation. You're feeding America. Call or go online today to helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double an impact.
My mom and dad were traditional Asian parents.
Now my father would go to work before I woke up in the morning, and then he would come home too tired to play with me. I tell my son, I love you every single day.
I love you.
Now my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. So I teased him the other day and I said, how come you never say that to me? And he said, you're too old now. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the material things, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious minute or moment.
Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
The Supreme Court hearing arguments today on a very important issue for the White House that deals with President Trump's executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship. The president sitting in the courtroom today as well, and NTD's Arlene Richards was also in the courtroom. Arlene, this is the first time that a U.S. president has attended oral arguments at the Supreme Court. What was the mood like in the courtroom?
Well, Don, I have to say that the mood was a little bit more subdued than I had expected on this particular oral argument. I was expecting there to be a lot of fiery exchanges between the Supreme Court justices and the attorneys, particularly between the Supreme Court justices and the Solicitor General, who represents the Trump administration. But it was really quite subdued. The questions were kind of soft, but they did get to the points that they wanted to get to the bottom of some of the reasoning for why President Trump wants to change this law. President Trump was sitting up in the front row right behind the Solicitor General as he gave his arguments, and I'm not sure if that was why it was more subdued, but certainly his presence was noticed by everyone in the room, and it was a packed courtroom today as well.
And can you tell us, Arlene, what was the focus of the arguments?
So as you know, Don, this was a case about President Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship and whether or not it complies with the citizenship clause in the 14th Amendment. Now, the plaintiffs were arguing that this clause has allowed for all children to become citizens who are born in the United States. But President Trump has said, you know, there's a misunderstanding all these years, over 100 years, there's been a misunderstanding of the clause. And he says that any child born to parents who are here either temporarily on a visa or who are here illegally cannot become a citizen. So the focus here today was on this phrase, subject to the jurisdiction hereof, which is a phrase that's contained in that clause. And the Solicitor General took it a step further and said any child or parent who are here subject to the jurisdiction must be domiciled. So let's listen to how he explained domicile and how that fits into the clause.
If you look at the text of the clause, we believe there it says, born in the United States, born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the states of which they reside. So there's a constitutional guarantee that applies to both federal or national and state citizenship. And the key point we make there is that that word reside, if you look at, for example, Section 1473 of Justice Story's commentaries, was understood to mean domicile. So when they say subject to the jurisdiction, and then they go on to say you're a citizen of the United States and the state in which they reside, the very text of the clause itself presupposes that the citizen is domiciled in the United States.
Now, the Justices Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett seem to have the most questions or challenges about this word domicile, and they both had different angles on which they addressed it. One was from the standpoint of slaves being in the United States and this clause being a way to address slaves-seeking citizenship, and the other was whether or not the persons intended to stay here. So let's listen to their challenges.
Here's where I'm going with it. I'm just working within your argument for a moment. Today, you can point to laws against immigration that are much more restrictive than they were in 1860. We really didn't have laws like that we do today until maybe 1880. So if somebody showed up here in 1868 and established domicile, that was perfectly fine without respect to anything, any immigration laws. There they were. And so why wouldn't we, even if we were to apply your own test, come to the conclusion that the fact that someone might be illegal is immaterial?
In your reply brief, that the children of slaves who were brought here unlawfully, in defiance of laws forbidding the slave trade, would in fact be citizens. And we can imagine that their parents were not only brought here in violation of United States law, but were here against their will, and so maybe felt allegiance to the countries where they were from. And you say that the purpose of the 14th Amendment was to put all slaves on equal footing, newly freed slaves on equal footing, and so they would be citizens. But that's not textual. So how do you get there? You say it in just a few sentences, so can you elaborate?
Now, all of the justices asked pretty similar questions to the plaintiff's attorney about jurisdiction and domicile. And the plaintiff's attorney basically said that domicile wasn't relevant here. And a lot of the justices wanted to get her take on, what subject to jurisdiction thereof meant and how it applied in this case. And of course, she hammered home her argument that this clause has applied to all children born in the United States since the late 1800s. I feel like the justices in general, I can't really tell today where they're leaning, but I think in general, they're reluctant to want to change a law that's been in place for over 100 years, that's been followed in one certain way, and now change the rule, because one of the questions that was asked was, how would that look? How would we do that? And Justice Amy Coney Barrett said it could be a mess. So we're going to hear their ruling on this by June, late June or July. Back to you, Don.
All right, Arlene, the kids behind you are very enthusiastic about your report. Thank you very much. States that decline to opt into the Education Freedom Tax Credit could be giving up billions in education funding, according to the America First Policy Institute. Joining us now is Erica Donalds, founder of Education Freedom Foundation and chair of Education Opportunity at the America First Policy Institute. Erica, it's so good to have you here. Good afternoon. So before we get to the main topic here, Erica, I just wanted to get your quick comments on President Trump's presidential library in Florida. The first look of it was shared recently, and Eric Trump said that the landmark would be a tribute to an amazing man, an amazing developer, the greatest president our nation has ever known. Can we get your comments?
Well, as a sixth-generation Floridian, I am very excited to have our first presidential library, especially in Miami on the water. It is a beautiful building, and it looks like it's going to be a great attraction for people who are already coming to Florida, especially next to the Freedom Tower. I think it's going to be a very educational place for people to learn about the Trump presidency and the legacy that he leaves. He's already had a great track record and a record-breaking, presidency with 2 separate terms. So I think it's going to be a great attraction and really boost the economy of Miami, as well as be an amazing tribute. All right, well said.
So on the tax credit, education tax credit, it looks like more Democratic states are opting in. Still, some states refusing to opt in. So in regards to those states, why are they refusing to opt into this into this credit?
Well, as you've stated, I'm encouraged that many Democrat states governors who said previously that they did not think they were going to opt in, I think now that they see using our calculator, the money that would be left on the table for their own citizens, private donations that could otherwise be used for educational expenses. They're softening their positions. One has already formally opted in, Colorado, but others have signaled that they will opt in when the Treasury rules come out this summer. I think that's very encouraging because we estimate that they would be leaving $23 billion on the table, affecting about 4 million children.
Okay, so give us more details on this. When a governor opts into the federal tax credit scholarship, what does it mean for families?
Well, first of all, the donors in that state can already donate $1,700 and receive a dollar-for-dollar tax credit, a decrease in their federal taxes, to these scholarship funding organizations, nonprofits. But if they don't opt in, the families in their state cannot receive those scholarships from those donated funds, and they will go to other states that have opted in. If I'm a family in Pennsylvania and I need help paying for private school or tutoring or special needs services, I can donate that $1,700. But if Governor Shapiro doesn't opt in, my child cannot receive a scholarship to get the help he needs.
Okay, what do you see when it comes to demand from families for school choice?
We have seen demand explode all over the country. Everywhere that a school choice program has passed, we have exceeded the number of scholarships available. For example, in Texas, their brand new program, funded at $1 billion, had over 274,000 applications in just a little over a month's time. Unfortunately, because it was only $1 billion, that only covers about 80 to 90,000 students. In Tennessee, they're actually considering legislation right now to double the number of scholarships available because they only have 20,000, but they had 50,000 applications.
Okay, so what does the evidence show here about school choice and how it's working?
It's incredibly encouraging. There's been over 200 studies to study the outcome of school choice, the impact on students, whether that's academic performance, college going rates, college persistence, lack of discipline issues. And of those 200 studies, 83% of them showed positive effects of schools, including positive effects on the public school students that remain in the traditional system. The remaining studies that didn't show a positive effect showed no effect. None of them showed a negative effect. And we know that parents are far more satisfied when they have options.
Okay, Erica, can you respond to some arguments here? You know, critics sometimes say that school choice drains resources from public schools. How do you respond to that?
Well, I believe that we need a free market in education. And if a school is not serving a student's needs, not being responsive to family feedback, they should not continue to be funded with the dollars that follow that child. If there is no financial consequence to not meeting a child's needs, to schools that have, in some cases, 0% reading and math proficiency, they will continue to fail. The only way to increase performance across the board is to inject free market principles, just like every other industry in America, to help them to have the motivation and incentive to improve if they want to keep those dollars. Families have the right to select the education that is working best for their kids, and they need the funding to do so.
And with that being said, another benefit, would you say, for school choice is that it makes schools more accountable to parents and students as well?
Absolutely. That's exactly why I'm in this business, if you will, of helping every family get the education freedom that they deserve. Because I heard from parents as a former school board member, as a parent activist, and now as a school choice policy advocate, I hear from parents all the time who say, my school's not working for my child and they're not listening to what my feedback is about how my child can learn better. But I have this school over here that I would love to send my child to, and I think they're going to better meet his needs. I need the funding. I need the transportation. I need the ability to move my child so they can get what they need. Every family deserves that. We shouldn't have any wait lists for these programs. They should be fully funded, and every state should opt in to the federal tax credit scholarship.
Okay, Erica, just one final question here. What do you see as the trajectory for American education? For example, are you optimistic that we'll be in a better place in, say, 5-10 years from now?
I am, simply because there is more education freedom spreading across the country. And I think that that has a positive impact on both the schools of choice as well as the public school system. I am not optimistic about the traditional public school monopoly, because monopolies do not work. They do not work in this country. They do not serve their students well, their families well, and they don't serve the taxpayers well. We have been doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. We have to change the entire infrastructure of the system to more of a free market approach if we want more innovative options, more responsive and more accountable options for families.
Okay, well said. Great to hear your thoughts today, Erica. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Moms for America hosting a special tea and luncheon in Georgetown, kicking off America's 250th birthday by placing mothers, past and present, at the center of America's story. More news after this break. Stay tuned.
Introducing the Quest Wise Soothing Herbal Eye Patches. It comes with 30 pairs and can be used to help combat tired and strained eyes. The natural herbal formula provides a cooling, minty, and refreshing effect that stimulates natural tears and awakens your tired eyes. Placing the eye patches around your eyes helps to reduce dryness and massages acupuncture points. They can be worn while reading, studying, using electronics, and provide hours of long-lasting relief.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. A few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer. And your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did.
Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org. Become a monthly donor during February Heart Month, and your first month's gift will be matched.
Thank you.
Adopting you was the best decision in our life. And I am so proud to call you my son.
Ahead of Easter Sunday, President Trump is scheduled to host an Easter lunch this afternoon, following his planned visit to the Supreme Court for oral arguments. This comes ahead of the White House Easter egg roll, set for Monday on the South Lawn, a tradition that dates back to 1878. Planning the Easter egg roll traditionally falls onto the First Lady, and each child receives a souvenir wooden egg, which is a tradition First Lady Nancy Reagan began in 1981. And Britain's King Charles will address the U.S. Congress later this month during his visit to Washington. House Speaker Mike Johnson shared the news today. King Charles and his wife, Queen Camilla, will visit the U.S. to mark the 250th anniversary of independence from British rule. The high-profile trip comes as the British government hopes to repair relations with President Trump which have been damaged by the Iran war. It would be the first state visit by a British monarch since 2007. King Charles's mother, Queen Elizabeth II, made that trip, the fourth such U.S. visit of her reign. President Trump says King and Queen's visit will begin on April 27th with a banquet dinner at the White House next day. Exactly 250 years ago, Abigail Adams penned a now famous plea to her husband. Remember the ladies. In the nation's capital, a new generation of women is marking that anniversary, celebrating women's role in America's founding story. NTD's Washington correspondent Mari Otsu has more on this elegant tribute to the women who helped build America and the new awards launching in their honor.
In a historic tavern once frequented by John Adams, Moms for America is hosting its first ever Remember the Ladies Tea and Luncheon, timed to the 250th anniversary of Abigail Adams' 1776 letter urging her husband to remember women as he built the new American nation. The event launching a new book, Remembering the Ladies, and a new honor, the Abby Awards, celebrating women they see as modern Abigail Adams figures.
This book isn't a feminist reclamation, it's a feminine recognition, and it is long overdue. If you're a mother who wonders whether your quiet faithfulness matters, not to dazzle you with history, but to remind you of your place in it. Because the torch of liberty wasn't meant to be worshipped. It was meant to be picked up, carried, and passed on. Now it is your turn.
The stories in the book spotlight 26 women of the American Revolution, but in City Tavern, the message is aimed squarely at women in 2026. Over and over, honorees and guests reflecting on the inherent value of women today in faith, family, and public engagement.
And you look at these women here today, it was righteous femininity, and righteous means God's approved. So, I mean, you are feminine. And I mean that in the best way. I don't mean that in some weird way of like, oh my gosh, we're competing or we're trying to be a man. No, a man doesn't want to marry a man. A man wants to marry a woman that will complete him and be his helpmate.
Special guest Christy Stutzman says womanhood means stepping back into culture and civic life without losing what makes women distinct.
It's so critical that we're all at the table speaking into the culture, but also being civically engaged. But at the same time, you don't have to set aside your womanhood to do that. It's something to be celebrated, and I think it's important that we present the right messages based on the right principles to guide people towards doing things that are, things that are greater than themselves, self-sacrifice, love of country, love of family, community.
Among the first Abby Award recipients, Education Secretary Linda McMahon and U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Janine Pirro. Both women framing their careers as extensions of their roles as mothers and protectors of families, arguing that high office and traditional femininity can and should go together.
Every single day, I see how indispensable women are to life's most sacred calling, nurturing our children. When our women are strong, America is strong.
Throughout the course of my career, my being a woman and a mother has always intersected with my career. It was the mother in me that fought so hard. It was the mother in me that wanted to protect the family and protect life.
Moms for America saying this is just the beginning. As America approaches its 250th birthday, these women say they'll be taking this Remember the Ladies program on the road, part of a broader effort to shape how the next generation remembers both the revolution and the women who lived it. Reporting by Mari Otsu, NTD News.
If you signed up for LA 28 Olympic tickets, now's the time to check your email because your chance to get in early may be here. The first round of ticket sales is now underway, but not everyone will get access. NTD's Christina Corona has the details on what you need to know.
The race for the LA 28 tickets is officially underway, with the first batch of emails going out Tuesday. Olympic organizers say more than 5 million people signed up for a chance to buy tickets, and not everyone will get in. Fans are randomly selected and given a limited time slot to make their purchase. The first wave of tickets goes on sale April 2nd through April 6th, and it's only for locals in Southern California and Oklahoma City. To qualify, buyers must use a payment method tied to eligible zip codes including Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Ventura counties. Those selected will get a 48-hour window to shop online, but once tickets are in your cart, you'll only have 30 minutes to check out. Fans can buy up to 12 tickets total, plus an additional 12 for Olympic soccer matches. Opening and closing ceremony tickets are even more limited, capped at 4 per person. Prices start as low as $28, but many seats will cost hundreds, and some premium tickets could top $1,000. If you didn't get picked this round, a broader ticket release opens April 9th, with more chances planned leading up to the games. Officials are warning buyers to steer clear of third-party resale sites for now. A verified resale program isn't expected until 2027. The 2028 Summer Olympics kicks off July 14th, with the Paralympics following in August. Christina Corona, NTD News.
NASA aims to launch 3 U.S. astronauts and a Canadian on humanity's first crewed lunar voyage in more than half a century. It's a 10-day flight around the moon and back that will mark the second mission of Artemis, successor to the Apollo program of the Cold War era.
Finish the ingress portion, as you heard in that procedure. So this is where the crew is going to start building their nest, if you will, running some procedures, getting the capsule ready for humans to be on board.
And now look at the clock, 3 hours, 30 minutes and counting until the opening of our 2-hour launch window, and we are pretty good on time. We are as we are expecting in terms of when ingress will be wrapping up soon. And so now let's bring Gary Jordan, again, our commentator inside of Mission Control at Houston. Gary, let's check in with you about mission preparations.
Hey, Megan, thank you. Yes, we're following along here in Mission Control Houston.
OTC copies.
And we'll stand by for those con checks. And again, we're waiting for those comm checks. We did confirm from our IVA officer here in Mission Control Houston that all 4 suits have plugged in umbilicals.
And CDR, NTD.
Go ahead, NTD.
Yeah, Reed, we're ready to proceed with the voice checks if you and everyone else is.
NTD, Integrity Crew is ready for voice checks.
I copy that. And Integrity for the entire crew, comm check on Orion to Earth 1.
CDR. PLT.
And you were just watching astronauts before the launch of NASA's crewed mission to the moon, around the moon, and then back to the Earth. It's going to be a 10-day journey, roughly 600,000 miles. And this is going to take the crew beyond the far side of the moon and deeper into space than any human has ventured before. Okay, let's take a break now. A win for the U.S. in the race against China for critical minerals. One of the world's largest cobalt producers is now in the hands of a U.S. company that says it will only trade with America-aligned buyers. More news in just a moment. Don't go away.
According to ancient Chinese medicine, purslane is considered a medicinal herb and is used to help lower cholesterol, improve vascular functions, and prevent diabetes. Perilla seeds can nourish the lungs and spleen. It is used to treat asthma and improve pulmonary functions. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds from Hwangmae Mountain in South Korea. It contains over 90% of omega-3, 6, 7, and 9. The highest concentration possible without chemical additives. The soft gel is made of natural seaweed. It is 100% organic and vegan. Both adults and children can take it with peace of mind. Ancient recipes were passed down from heaven to bring prosperity and longevity. Puritang green vegetable omega-3.
So at the age of 5, I was sexually molested. I had my first child at the age of 15 and became homeless at the age of 16. The scariest part about not having a place to live was having a child and not having a place to live, and not knowing where our meal was going to come from and where we're going to sleep. To be homeless as a teen, I didn't ask for that.
No young person should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep at night, or a warm meal to eat, or whether anyone cares about them. 1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year, and that's unacceptable. But the good news is there is an organization making a big difference, Covenant House.
Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night.
For over 50 years, Covenant House has been helping youth in crisis.
It was pretty